Well, let's see. It's the usual thing. The usual thing. Well, hello. Dimensions and Dementites. See what's working here. It works, I mean, we've finally gotten to the place where the shit just works, and I'm happy to say that because I don't have the time to figure this shit out sometimes. How are you, one person there? This was kind of an impromptu thing today. I didn't know if I was going to jump on, but it's one of those things where you just got to keep doing it. And for various mental reasons, I have not been streaming, but I gotta just some housekeeping here. I gotta stick with it. Just as a little exercise, and this is good today because I'm taking a little break from. Wow, just to really sitting in front of the sitting in front of the screen. I'm taking a break from sitting in front of the screen to sit in front of the screen. And this is a little different though, because this is in front of the camera, but it's also quite meditative and usually quite enjoyable. So let's give it a shot. I really had to make the mental effort though. I've been in office hours dealing with an upcoming tour and doing some booking on another tour, which I'll talk about a little bit today because we're about to announce all that. But just for the mental health, sometimes it's like, yeah, take a break, get on. Meatless Monday. So hello, anyone that's watching now or in the future. You might be watching in the future. I'm going to do some technical stuff here and pull up photographs because what I did do last week is part one of what I called plant-based in Japan, and that was last week was a lot of fun. Couple really not couple, a lot of great questions, a lot of great comments and thoughts from y'all, and people checking in on what that's like. Talked about the music a little bit, talked about some other things. So let's see if we can have a couple chats today. YouTube is up and running. Facebook is up and running. There's usually a couple people who only check in on, who only check in on the old YouTube, on the YouTube channel, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. These are, let me shut that volume down. I appreciate the people who do not like to use Facebook to the extreme. They don't even have it, right? I think that's kind of cool. And I salute you. Okay, I got to deal with logging in here. 3. The two-step login stuff that I get it. You know what? I'm not gonna complain at all about security. I mean, right, with all the identity theft and all the bullshit going on, that's but sometimes it gets annoying. Let's text this code to your phone or to your whatever. So Twitch is working, Facebook's working, YouTube's working. I always check this shit out because for when I'm really stuck somewhere and I need to do this. I got to make sure it all works. So, well, cool. Well, one of the things, couple of things to talk about today. Wow, there's so many news items that fly by. One of them, and I promise I'll just do a whole show on this sometime, is there's so many words: faux meat, fake meat, simulated meat. Meat replacements is kind of getting into a little better zone, I think. And live phone call. And there's all kinds of different designations for that. But an interesting area, and there's things that are thousands of years old, like seitan and tempeh and things like that. Different mushrooms. You even have mushrooms with names like hen of the woods and sorry, I just have to reply to this. You have different funguses and different things that were used by various cultures, by various people over the years when they wanted to replace meat. And it's important to not ascribe like modern philosophy on this. It's not because they were vegan, man. No, it's because it was the winter and or the they only had one cow left, so they're using it for milk, or 2 chickens left, so they're using them for eggs. So seasonal stuff, all kinds of things: famine, war, just hardcore economics. So that's the interesting area that I want to talk a little bit more about how people had what we would today call substitutes for meat. They didn't think of it as that. It was just also mushrooms, So we're in a funny place today where there's this. We have to fight about everything, of course, in the modern era, and that's what social media is for: is fighting. And I've certainly participated in quite a bit of that. So you post something about an alternative to flesh foods, and there's always someone in the comments like blah blah blah. Why do vegans this? Why do vegans that? Anyway, in that topic, what's been interesting the last little bit of time is a couple of news articles I've seen where there's people. And I should pull up some articles, but there's a couple startups saying they're going to do plant-based meat alternatives, but with animal fat. So we've gone full circle. And I've seen some goofy things like either it's April Fools or even seriously, some fast food company as a lark, as a joke, did a thing where they had carrots, for instance, but they were made out of liver or beef or something, and with orange food dye and stuff like that. And it's like, ha, 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 vegetarians make burgers out of soy or lentils or peas or mushrooms. So, ha, 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 we're going to make broccoli out of shrimp. Or it's like, really? Are you 6 years old? But having said that, there's this new wave of I wouldn't call it a wave yet, but so with animal fat. So tell me what you think about that. That's the first quick topic that Fortune magazine. Here's a Fortune magazine article, and see if I can show this, because some of these things are subscription only. Okay, cool. This one works. Let's see if I can pull that up. Okay, cool. So check this out. So this is plant-based meat startup, adding real animal fat to the mix. It didn't sizzle right. It didn't smell right. It didn't have that incredibly fatty taste and mouthfeel. So, oh shit, it is subscriber only. So, all right, well, we can, this is enough to kind of generate a little conversation, but it's, first off, incredibly subjective. It didn't sizzle right, it didn't smell right. I mean, across the board, right? I mean, you have people who eat meat that don't like pork because of the mouthfeel, or they love lamb better than they love chicken, or they hate duck because it's too fat. So within whatever cuisine we're talking about, there's no universal kind of like thing. Uh, of course, there's generalities and there's stuff that's incredibly popular. I mean, the whole point and the core of what I'm talking about is obviously a beef burger on a beef patty on a hot grill that's got a good amount of fat in it, and it sizzles and gets just the right amount of char, and then whether people like it medium or rare or well done. Of course, that's an incredibly popular and kind of objectively attractive thing to a vast amount of human beings. What's interesting is you can get pretty much that umami and mouthfeel and texture and temperature gradient and juiciness and fattiness, all that stuff, which is why we are where we are, and that's been true for decades, really. So this is really interesting to me that there's this all of a sudden this gaslighting of veggie burgers were never really good. They need pork in them. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it smells a little bit like meat industry kind of being a little pissed off at sales and doing their thing. That could be completely ridiculous. I'm fine with that. I am just saying that's interesting. But be that as it may, hey, great! I'm a free market guy. I love it. Free market. Let's go back here. I just Googled plant-based meats with animal fat, and there's a couple articles. Here's one. Yeah, Washington Post. Let's see if that allows me to show it. Oh yeah, this is cool. So anyway, on your own time, in your study time, students, check this one out because it's interesting. Now, this sub-headline, what do you call that? The subhead, the second line. It says, as the plant-based meat market cools, some startups turn to a new ingredient, actual meat. So that's what I was going to say before. There has been a little softening of sales for Impossible and Beyond and stuff like that. I also think it's just an adjustment. I think there was an over-excitement, maybe, an oversell, maybe too good to be true kind of numbers and stock. I always thought, wow, this, they're acting like next Wednesday, half of Americans are gonna be eating veggie burgers. I always thought that was a little, but that's cool. Companies hype and imply that things are bigger than they are. That's completely natural. But that market has cooled. That it has softened. The sales have softened on that, or they've just normalized. In any event, I really don't see the connection to. So let's put pork fat in it. It's kind of humorous, actually. But anyway, this article is interesting, and I love that this article has. Let's nitpick this a little bit. It says plant-based meats, think the Impossible Burger or Quorn, quote-unquote, chicken nuggets, are generally filled. Here, this is what's funny. A long list of strange-sounding ingredients. I mean, that requires some sound effects. Strange-sounding ingredients. Ooh. And what's so strange? Pea protein. Oh man, that is so weird. Green peas mashed up. That is really strange shit. Potato starch. Ooh. Now we're getting into some strange territory. The oil of a coconut? Really? You guys are such weirdos. What's strange sounding stuff? Mycoproteins. Okay, if you're, I don't know, I'm going to be nice about it, but have you not encountered the word mycology or mycoprotein or mycological, any of those root words? Okay, so that means proteins from the fruited part of a fungus plant, what we call mushrooms. But I mean, isn't that weird, right? They set it up, a long list of strange sounding ingredients, and then it's real simple shit that takes literally no technology to produce. Literally, like you can grow peas in your backyard and mash them up and have pea protein. You can grow potatoes in your backyard, which we have. We've grown both of those actually, and you have the potato starch. Maybe there's some baking and steaming or something there to pull the water out and have it just be the starch of the potato. But we're talking no technology. Coconut oil, okay, you have to be somewhere where coconuts grow and have uh, again relatively low tech means. Anyway, just funny how some of these articles, there's a real lean into that these foods have so many crazy ingredients. You always hear that from critics of veggie burgers or veggie nuggets. It's like, I don't know, there's all this stuff in it. Why I get amped up about that is there seems to be little or no discussion of what's in your beef burger. I mean, unless you're getting some, you know, farm raised, grass fed, organic, undrugged beef burger from a cow that has that sort of a description, or the equivalent sort of thing from pork from a pig, and it's a pork that's undrugged, no antibiotics, no growth hormones, no kinds of weird shit. Then you have a long list of ingredients as well. It's just very disingenuous because it's eaten by the animal and doesn't have to be listed. It's very funny. But anyway, so this is an interesting area. I'll move on from this, but I want people that are interested to read about this. It's a very interesting thing. I love, of course, just different topics and talking about things and seeing how the industry moves and how kind of markets move around the world. So I'm very interested to see how things shake out with this. I'm not mad at all. It's great. I'll only be mad if labeling becomes shitty, and if there's times where you start confusing these items. And I have some sort of problem with it. If you're going to call it plant-based, to have bat or shrimp nuggets or take fuck when it comes to language and words. And indeed, plant-based does not mean 100% made of plants. It means based on plants. So it's a little tricky, but it's also one of those things of we all know what it means. Stop playing games. And I think we're going to enter this area of some companies playing games with this very valuable tagline, actually. You know, you read food economics is in an incredible place right now. As earlier ones like Nick or farm raised or any of those things, which we could have a long discussion on the appropriateness of any of those phrases and how they kind of came and went or are still with us. But seeing that value of the phrase plant-based, you're going to have some bad actors. We're going to try to you in it. I just want to really fat. We love it. If you've been watching my series for any time, I'm a huge fan. And this notion that vegetarians, if we're eating a whole foods based diet, and that means lowercase whole foods, the way we used to use it, not a store, but then we're eating really good fat, whether it is avocados and fresh raw Brazil nuts or walnuts and pine nuts and fresh organic raw seeds like pumpkin seeds, which are incredibly healthy and incredible source of fat and protein. There's so many great sources of plant-based fat, and then you get to things like that you just buy a bottle of, like cold pressed flax oil, borage oil, hemp oil. So many different great sources of fat. As I said, avocados, coconut. The list goes on. and different beans have fats in them, and there's fat in certain algae. So there's a wide spectrum of plant-based fat, olives, uh, a bunch of other items you can get off of trees have incredible fat in them. Um, so we love fat, and anyone who's thinking fat free still, which you know what, you never hear that much. Remember when that was like the big thing, late '80s into the '90s, everything was fat free, fat free, fat free. I hated that trend, and I hated it then. I spoke out about it then. When we had our natural food store for over a decade, we hated that crap. We didn't get any of that fat-free stuff, or certainly didn't get anything with fake fat like Olestra or anything like that. But so a couple things there. I go now to your comments. Let me jump back and see if anyone has any thoughts on that. Michael, good to see you. Good to see you. And thank you. You need my PIN, blood type, and a list of my fears. I'll put them right in the chat in a minute. Cliff, cool. You saw Banned from Utopia. That's great. Well, good friends of mine, and I can go ahead and say it. It's public info. I am booking their current tour, so we're about to drop the dates. Maybe I'll do a preview here today. But all good friends of mine. A bunch of them I have performed with. Of course, toured for years with Robbie and with Ray White. I did what is still the biggest array of Zappa alumni tour since a Zappa tour. I'm very proud to say I did that in 2013 with my excellent team of Guitar Tour Productions. But we had 5 people. We had Ike Willis, Ray White, Tom Fowler, Denny Wally, and Ed Mann. And we did 10 shows in the States and 10 shows in Europe. Ed was only on the first couple shows in Europe, but even at 4 alumni and certainly 5 in the States, I'm so proud of that moment, 2013, because I took more Zappa alumni together in one tour than has ever happened since 1988 when Frank toured. I'm really saying that as a setup to say I'm really delighted and honored, and it feels great as one of the planet's Zappa addicts. One of the certainly. I hesitate to call myself a scholar because there's some motherfuckers out there. They know everything about every lyric, every second of. But yeah, I'm a scholar. I'll go with that because I'm still learning, even 43 years almost into being a Zappa fanatic. I'm still learning because stuff keeps coming out, bootlegs, little clips of video, things like that. So it's an amazing thing to be in Zappa University all these years. But so I'm booking this tour. It starts July 4th. There's a couple kind of private warm-up gigs right around then, and then it's full blast starting with the 6th of July in Cleveland at the Beatsland Ballroom. So I'll put some dates up later, but thank you, Cliff, for giving a reason to drop that. Steve Vai came through. Cool. Did Steve sit in? That's so cool. That's so cool. Ray is indeed a treasure. All right, so we're jumping around here. Let me know your thoughts on some of the meatless stuff, because that's why we're here. No one commenting in Twitch or YouTube as yet, but there's always somebody who stops in. Let me just let's see. Steve did not sit in. Okay. As soon as I put some video, so tell me. Well, I know Cliff wasn't here last week, and I think Michael was here. I was gonna say if anyone was here last week, I did some photos, which I'm gonna do a little bit more from Japan and how amazing it was. And I have a new mug here. Check this out. Oh, it's disappearing because of my green screen thing. But look at that. It's a Tube Screamer mug. Tube Screamer green. And I'm rocking a little Nigori sake, which is the cloudy sake. Just a little touch, just to give myself a little Japan vibe. Cliff Hines says, realize that watching the band is so much more than knowing the music. If you play without music, it's a scholarly thing to know all that stuff. So yeah, thanks, man. And I would say it's the same. When I watch other tribute bands, now there's a whole bunch. I'm really happy to be like I'm getting old enough to be a grandfather of some of these bands. Certainly a father figure, and it's an honor when some of these bands reach out to me. And as people have over the years, they're forming a Zappa band. They want to reach Ray or reach Ike, or do I have charts for this or that? Which when I do, I send them. And some of these bands are cool. Some of them stick around for a couple of months, and some of them are around for a few years. And you're right. Some of them are good. Some of them are not so good. But one of the things is there's that extra thing, that garlic, that knowing, as Frank would call it, the garlic. There's knowing the little inside jokes and how far to push improv and where the limits are on stuff, even down to which versions of tunes really work in context with everything else. And when I listen back to nights that we were really good, it's really it's a wonderful memory to know that we did that. What's my Twitch channel? I will link you with that right now. Or are you saying? I'm not sure if you're saying what's Twitch, but I think you know what Twitch is. You're all over the place out there. But so there's my Twitch channel. If for some reason you don't know Twitch, Twitch is amazing. It's still kind of underused by musicians. Twitch is essentially where all the gamers are, all the Gen Z and teenage and 10-year-old, probably 6-year-old gamers making $500,000 on having people watch them do video games. I exaggerate a little bit, but so it's a gaming platform. There's a lot of gaming channels, but there's tons of music. A lot of electronic artists use it, which would apply to both you and I. So I watch a lot of raves and electronic performances and shit like that. What's great about Twitch is the quality is high. Is the video quality that you can get, the audio quality you can get is. I haven't checked in a while, but most recent time I checked some time ago, way superior to YouTube, and there's a lot of cool little features and chat room stuff that you can do. So check out Twitch. Yeah, I'm sure you. Yeah, I figured you would say you're on Twitch. Yeah, it'd be crazy if you weren't. I'd be like, dude, how did you? So Twitch, I love. So everyone in the band know the story beats. It's so much deeper than playing the tune. Story beats. I don't know that phrase, but that's a cool phrase. So awesome. Okay, I will follow back. Let's see. Sorry. Um. Sorry, I'm dealing with an emergency that I need to respond to here. Sorry to be rude. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go to some photos. I'm gonna talk about Japan a little bit. Japan. Oh, just really was incredible. And a random photograph, Facebook. So I'm gonna pull it up because it's contextual to Japan. When is this from? October 20th, 2021. So let's check this out. Um, and I know I'm getting warnings. My internet is a little fucked up, so some of you may be getting delays on stuff. But there we have it. Look at that. This is in 20. I don't know, 4 years ago or something. But we visited this farm sanctuary, and I can see happiness on my face. I love animals. I love, of course, and not just dogs and cats, but I love the rare chances in life when you can be around a horse or a cow or a pig or some birds or animals that won't bite my fucking head off are always kind of special. But pigs are truly lovely. They are smarter than dogs, in the ways that they can quantify that shit, solving puzzles and you know um, different memory tests and shit like that. Incredible, beautiful animals, and then they come up to you and nuzzle and kind of they're very friendly. But this is a farm sanctuary not far from where we live, and we support them and we do some donations when we can, and we do some fundraiser things. And but beautiful place. This woman Sarah, who saves all these animals, has them on a farm. So this came up randomly. But it ties in with the Japan thing because man, Japan is not a place for the pigs. Wow, talk about pork and everything, and it really is kind of incredible. And what's incredible about Japan, if you are a flesh eater, if you are a meat eater, but you don't eat pork, which I have countless friends who only chicken or chicken and fish or only fish. I'm sure you all know people like that. Pork's kind of the one where it's, some people do it, some people don't. Um, and certainly, I have Hindu friends and relatives. I have Muslim friends and relatives. I have acquaintances in both religions that don't eat pork, of course. So there's that's the one where, and what's interesting about Spain and Japan, I have not been to Africa as yet, working on that. But with a huge chunk of Africa being Islamic, pork, from what I read and what I look into, is again, it's tricky. It's in some spots, especially where the Portuguese were, or depending on who colonized. But pork's tricky in most of Africa too. Certainly, the whole top quarter of Africa, the very heavily Islamic area. But Spain and Japan, if you're a meat eater who does not eat pork, you got some minefields in both places, man. I mean, pork is in everything. In Spain, it's jamon, it's ham, and the jamon iberica, the Iberian ham is very popular. Very and to their credit, it's very. I don't know about all of it, but a lot of it's very naturally raised and fed, clean, pure grain and stuff like that. They're still slaughtered. They still get their throats cut, but they're, yes, incrementally treating the animal better before its slaughter is something I'm in support of. Um, but in Spain, jamon, you see it in pastries. It's in you order some eggs or something. I mean, I don't eat eggs currently, but just watching people around me, you order grilled vegetables and potatoes or something, and you better tell them that not to put seafood, not to put pork in there, because it's a garnish in their mind. Like jamon, why wouldn't you put a little jamon? So jumping back to Japan, which is right, well, it's on the other side. Um, I think is it tonkatsu? Is that the name of the broth? Pork broth is in so much stuff. Um, Pork in general is in a lot of things. Um, Tonkatsu is the actual piece of pork, right? Yeah, yeah, right. I forget what the name of the broth is, but um, anyway, suffice to say, it's tricky there. Certainly, yes, Cliff says tonkatsu. Yeah, I think tonkatsu is the pork itself, right? The cutlets, slices. Um, is that the name of the broth also, or um, I learned so many words in Japan that I forget once I'm not there. Uh, let's see. Oh, how interesting. Tonkatsu is pork. Tonkotsu is pork. That's interesting. I love that about Japanese, where you know, yeah, sometimes it's one letter or the same word with one other word with it. How about that? Well, thank you, Cliff. I just learned something there. So tonkatsu is pork itself, and tonkotsu is um, is pork broth. Cliff is saying, can you ask for a veggie broth? Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm going to jump in a bit to the upside. In a nutshell, I mean, I'm not. What's the word? I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not bragging, but I'm a pro, and you are too because you've traveled a lot. But some people, when they go and they're eating in a foreign country from the U.S., and they have a diet where they're being specific about things, it can be very daunting, and there's some things you need to know. But I've done this for decades, and besides, I think the 20 years in retail have really helped me kind of zone in. Having said that, yes, you can easily ask for vegan broth and stuff like that. Whether you'll get it or not is another thing, and you have to, it depends where you are. But one of the things I did or I do is have a little. See, it's not going to show up on the screen again because of the anyway. I carry with me in my photos. I have a little folder of Japanese phrases and words about food. You know, but one of them is, oh, I used to be able to say this so smoothly. Mitore suberosu wa arimasu ka? That was close. Mitore suberosu ma arimasu ka? You know, you say that every day for 2 or 3 days, and you get it. So, Cliff, what I asked there is, do you have meatless broth? So when you go into a ramen store, you kind of start there, and then you can say shokubutsu. You can point, and that means plants, plant-based, plant food. And you could say oniku nashi, sakana nashi, which means no meat, no fish, ebi nashi, no shrimp. Once you've said a couple of those things, it's very clear, because there are vegetarians, there are vegans in Japan, and so once you kind of said those words I just said, you get you know, and they can do your thing, or they say no, no. They're like, no, man, our shit and that's cool. The beauty of Japan, one of the greatest foods cuisine trips you will ever make, is you have a million choices. So you go 10 meters down the street, 3 meters down, across the street, and you'll find another place when you're in those areas. And roughly, you know, like the third place you go into, just to pick a rough statistic, is going to be the one that says and they'll even sometimes bring you an English menu, and they often have, if it's an area where there's enough tourists that come, they will have stuff marked vegan. So that's what's cool. So yes, answering your question, yes, you can very much ask. Also, I'm having trouble seeing all my comments. Let me see what's going on in here. If I can change. Okay, cool. There we go. Also, yes, can you ask for plain miso? You can. That's actually kind of rare. I think 80% of the time, the miso that you'll run into in most places, like let's say every morning in the hotels, I had miso maybe once, and I make my own miso on the road. I have miso. I have a kettle when I'm in the U.S. I have dried nori, dried kombu. I get fresh scallions wherever I travel on Earth. So I have a thermos and a kettle, and I make fresh miso as much as I can. So I kind of have that. But you raise a great point. So they use dashi, and dashi is a great thing to learn about if you're into Japanese food. Dashi means stock, basically. It's a stock, and there's about 5 or 6 basic dashis. Japanese food, like Mexican food, where you go all around Mexico and you get different types, right? that all get lumped into one thing in the U.S. or in China, where I've not been yet, but studying food and watching a million Anthony Bourdain episodes, I know that China has countless food regions and little areas where certain things are. And in the States, we kind of know Szechuan and we kind of know Hong Kong food, which is not China, I know, but you see those phrases um, and other phrases. And so there's an Americanized version of all these foods and then the version in those countries. And Japan, like China or Mexico or Italy or Germany or England, which is much maligned for food, which is weird. But you go to different regions, you get different things. So in Japan, the various rice growing regions or the areas where there's a lot more tropical fruits and vegetables and things, or the areas where they focus on uh, squash, or they're more into beef than pork, or you have different regional things. So you see different types of dashi, just like you would have 10 different types of what's an authentic Italian sauce. There's no one answer for that, right? You go to Genoa, you go to go down near Rome, or you go on the East Coast, you'll have different types of Italian food. So with that in mind, there's a few types of dashis, and I encourage anyone that likes to cook to look up dashi and learn how to make. Almost all dashi has seaweed, kombu usually, sometimes kombu and nori. Um, like I said, there's about 5 or 6 basic dashis. About 2 of them are vegetarian and vegan. Most of them are going to have bonito, which is tuna flakes. Some of them have mackerel or sardine, usually dried, usually in a powder. So then there's kombu. Some of them have shiitake mushrooms, some don't. And again, it's very akin to a salsa or a sauce or gravy in Italy, where parts of the country they always use a ton of this herb or this much garlic, and then other areas, it's a little thinner and has a little sardine in it. So likewise, the salsas as you go around Mexico, different types of things you find in those. This region of Mexico, there's always ground up nopales. There's always a bit of cactus in their salsa versus some other part. So very similar. So check out dashis. You have different ones, and the vegan ones usually they all have water based, but the vegan ones would have just mushrooms, just uh, uh, shiitake and kombu and things like that. So long answer to your question, Oso, but I think an important answer to say that usually when you order miso soup in Japan, it's going to have dashi, and that's going to usually have um, um, bonito. Sorry, I'm multitasking again. Um, so I think miso is one of the frontline challenges. Yeah, if you're in a restaurant though, you can usually ask them to do it from scratch, and they will. Most any decent restaurant, which I been to Japan 9 times and I haven't been to a shitty restaurant. The bar is so high. I mean, of course there's fast food. You see American fast food, you see McDonald's and things like that, but not that much, not that much. Depending on the part of Osaka you're in, to start with Osaka, Kyoto, Nagoya, places like that. Sure, they have everything, Starbucks, McDonald's, different American things, but in cities like that, especially Osaka, which is a big seafood city, you can go big chunks of the city and not see kind of American fast food, or sometimes there's some English chains too and stuff. But in general, the bar is very high, and any good restaurant you go in, and yes, they will do things for you, and you know, kind of customized. So okay. Making you miss Japan. So, oh, that's great, Cliff. That's right. I remember you said you'd been there. Um, so no, I am back from Japan. I was on tour with Pat Metheny. What was it? January 10th to February 5th. So been home for several weeks, and going back out on tour with Pat very soon. So look at patmetheny.com if you're in the Northeast or on the East Coast. We'll be there soon. Pork used to have trichinosis, but it's super rare, but it has become a religious identity. Uh, Tell me what you mean by that. What's become a religious identity? Trichinosis? And I didn't know that. Is trichinosis now rare? Really? So they've kind of helped wipe it out with whatever antibiotics or some, you know, antiviral or whatever. Um, Cliff says, "Can you ask for veggie broth? You had a hard time going veggie. I need to do seafood. Okay, so tell me, do you mean in Japan? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, it's there's so many moving parts in eating a plant-based diet. One of the big ones is the people you're around. So I don't know if you were traveling with people where it was it made it a challenge. Or there was more seafood. Um, I you know yeah I've never eaten seafood in Japan. Now I probably have, just contamination wise, and you know what was in a pot or something. But usually you can taste it. That's the thing. Seafood has a very strong umami, a very strong part of the umami. Uh, but I'm incredibly careful, and when in doubt, I just don't have it. Like if I'm in a place and the language barrier is too much, and or you're getting inconsistent answers, I just say, okay, pull the plug. I'll have that salad. I'll have, and but for me, if it's a place where, yeah, this happens so infrequently there. Um, my typical thing in a good restaurant in Japan is I'll ask if they can do the miso soup from scratch. So, sakana nashi, no fish, uh, dashi sakana, dashi nashi, no, no, dashi na. I forget how you say it. There's all these different contractions, but you ask for it just the miso and scallions and mushrooms, and they'll do it. I'll usually order mushrooms. I think they're some of the planetary masters of mushrooms. I'll just say just mushrooms in a vegetable oil, or if they're grilling or something. Um, and again, if the language is clear, I'll ask that it not be cooked with fish or meat or something. And they're great about that. They're very much a clean pan sort of a cuisine too. In other words, everything that's cooked, even the different meats and fish, is a clean pan or quickly washed with hot water, that sort of thing. So that's kind of cool. But I'll get mushrooms. I'll get some tofu, which you can get anywhere. Uh, a number of restaurants we went to this time made their own tofu that day. Wow, nothing tastes like that. That's incredible. Um, I'm pretty amazed that 40 years into being vegetarian, 40 years into being plant based, this trip to Japan kind of raised the bar for me for tofu. Like, who knew I would encounter like new levels of tofu? But I sure did. Um, uh, um, and so, yeah, so I'm just kind of, I apologize, I'm multitasking. I've got a tour I'm booking, a tour I'm leaving for. I've got all this stuff. So there's no excuse. Stay on camera, but I'm getting some messages. But my typical thing would be whatever vegetables they have, which is always lots in most Japanese restaurants, some squash, some asparagus, lots of mushrooms, uh, tofu, just kind of done, pan fried, or if they're grilling. Um, rice is incredible there, especially we were in the Nagata area, or was it Iwate had was the rice area. Takasaki, I think, also had some good rice. But we were in like the rice area, and wow, the sake was incredible. The rice was incredible. Like you're going in, going like, really? Yeah, bring us your rice, whatever. Wow. I, I mean, so many subtle lessons being there, but something about the freshness, the density of the grains, the kind of, I mean, it's grown right there, and some of these areas they don't even export some of their rices. So, um, but that's, I'm jumping around here, but hopefully giving kind of a snapshot that it is pretty easy to do this. You remember saying Nikusan? Oh, that went away. Um, Nikusen. Okay, at every restaurant. And what does Nikusen mean? I'm gonna just look, but Unikunashi I know is um yeah um yeah, you can just go ahead and drop that in there. But sounds sounds like it means no something, right? Um, yeah. But that's cool. But yeah, it's just a matter of knowing a couple words and sticking with your thing, just kind of saying. So Nikusen, yeah, maybe that's not the spelling because that translates as Nick Wire. So so yeah, I'm not familiar with that phrase, but Oniko Nashi and um, Sakana Nashi. But there's, yeah. Anyway, um, I wonder what time is. You ordered veggies and the chef noodles and veggies. The chef looked at you like, you mean if that's you consider meal? Yeah, that's the thing. Once in a while, you'll get a vibe. You get some places where they're like, "Are you kidding?" It's rare in my estimation. I ate, all around the planet, but all around the country, and very, yeah, never really got a vibe. But we were in like really cool places that either a Japanese person took us, or in one case, American man who's been there 12 years, Japanese wife, spoke fluent Japanese. So we went to, pretty cool places. And we went to that place that Kill Bill, I guess, was uh, filmed in the big battle scene was filmed in a replica of this restaurant. We went to that. And a couple times we'd go to restaurants where someone would call ahead and say, "We have someone that's vegan. We have another person that only eats fish or chicken in the meats. Can you facilitate?" But in general, no stupid vibes, which was great. Um, Oddly, yeah, you didn't see miso veggie broth options. Yeah, it's not going to be there as an option. Yeah, you definitely have to ask for that. Um, I'm just catching up on comments here, guys. So some of this, obviously, I covered. Yes, bonito, and I covered that. Bonito is tuna flakes, basically, and shaved paper thin. Exactly. There's a couple ways it is. Sometimes the pencil shavings one is what they put on top of something very hot, and it crinkles and moves around. It's kind of cool looking, but yeah, you can get bonito in like a little spice jar. The flakes. Um, Restaurant and food life there. Food is venerated as a large part. Absolutely, absolutely. That's a great point, and something that I mentioned last week. It's 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 an art form. It is the focus of your day. A couple of times a day. Um, and some Americans eat food that way. Yeah, we're such a big country. But you're right. It's a lot more just for the fun and uh, the entertainment part of it. Or just a lot of junk food. We do consume clearly the highest percentage of junk food and fast food on planet Earth, which is a bummer. That said, we're the third largest country on Earth, so the numbers get really big really fast. So anyway, not eating pork has become identity. I got you right. You're talking about religious. Ya tu sabe. Tra. Ben Rodriguez requires. Tra. What's up, Benny? Hope you're doing well, my friend. I should keep a little bit of that reverb. There we go. Get that radio voice. Um, Sharon Rudolph, hey, how are you? And yeah, you and Dave eat meatless, right? I mean, so this a trip to Japan, amazing food country. I don't know if you've been there yet. Well, cool. I'm going to wrap up with some pictures here. But please keep hitting me with points, questions, arguments, discussions, elephant talk. Let me just quickly see. Is anyone on YouTube? Someone on YouTube just gave me a heart. Thank you. Thanks for listening there. And no one on Twitch. There was one or two people who used to watch on Twitch, but okay, cool. So let me see about getting these pictures now. How do I do this? Okay, cool. Here we go. So yeah, I will only be on for another maybe half hour. But Pat Metheny, I should mention that, patmetheny.com. We've got a tour coming up in a little while. Benny, we're going to see you in New York, man. We're in New York City at the 92nd Street Y. I think it is. Yeah, I think I did a gig there a million years ago. Al Di Meola, actually, but who can remember? Who can remember anything? But let's take a look. So this is a tour that's East Coast, starting next Thursday in about 10 days. So it's East Coast pretty much. So we start in Virginia. There's a lot of kind of the middle of the East Coast down to Florida, and then a few things up in the Northeast. So there we go. We start in Rocky Mount, Virginia, Charlottesville, where the Tiki Torture MAGA people were marching. So I'll be posting some interesting shit from there. Columbus, Ohio. Bloomington, Indiana. You know, you can read it yourself. But anyway, Arkansas, Rogers, Arkansas, I believe the headquarters of Walmart. Nolens, Birmingham, Alabama, where we will have free tickets for embryos. Bring your embryo to the Alabama show. Get in for free. Couple in Florida, where Pat started out at University of Miami 50 years ago. Pat's one of those few artists that actually does a bunch of Florida shows. You notice if you look at any one of your favorite artists, hardly anyone goes to Florida. Usually when you do, it's you sneak into Jacksonville and turn right back around, or you just go to Miami, or Miami and Jacksonville. So you stay on kind of 95, stay on the East Coast. And then the next one in popularity is the Tampa St. Pete's, Clearwater. But Pat, he's got a great fan base all around Florida, all around the USA, actually. Working for him almost 3 years, been going to some places I've never been. So he worked it, man. And 50 years ago, they would play everywhere. They just got in that station wagon and played everywhere. So it really shows as we go to these little towns. Anyway, a bunch of Florida dates, Atlanta, and then near my neck of the woods, North Carolina, Charlotte, Durham, South Carolina, a few others, and etc. So yeah, check out the dates, patmetheny.com. Richfield Playhouse, always fun. And indeed, New York City, 92nd Street Y on the 7th of April. And on the 8th of April, that's looking good because we have a day off to see what we can see of a full eclipse, I believe it is. And it kind of is visible in parts of the Northeast. I think a little bit north of where we are, but we'll see a partial, which is cool. We saw there was a moon eclipse, lunar eclipse in October. We were on tour on a day, and we saw it. Blah, 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 Northampton, Mass, and we finished in Poughkeepsie. And then Poland, not the next day, but in October. We love Poland. We love going there. Look at all the great Polish cities. In Nowaclaw, Gdansk, Warsaw, Wrocław, Katowice. I'm butchering that a bit. And then Budapest, Hungary. Wow. We were there a couple years ago. And then a bunch of, I haven't even looked at these, a bunch of Germany, all the big cities. Sometimes we stay in Germany for a month, but this looks like we're just hitting the big ones. Köln, München, Hamburg, Berlin. Okay, cool. So that's my life. That's my day job. So try to come out. Please drop me a line, say hi, and yeah. So okay, let's see about the technology here where I can. Bum, 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 bum. Let's see. How do I do this? Okay, I have to make it so that I can put these pictures up. Cool. Let's do this. And I think I'll do some food pictures, but maybe I'll also do some music pictures this time. Let's see. Bum, 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 bum. Oh shit! All right. Well, hit me with any questions if you've got anything while I'm doing this technical nonsense in the background. Since there's a couple new people here, I'll go ahead and show a couple of these pictures again. Like I'll do a best of. I'll do a best of Japan here. Just kind of give a little sample of some things. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, let's see if the technology works here. If so, in about 10 seconds, these photos should magically appear. There we have it. They did. It worked. So that's like a typical breakfast, actually. This was at where we stayed at the hotel. And man, Japanese hotels are unbelievable. I mean, even your most decent hotel, you're going to get something looking like this. This was a pretty good hotel in Tokyo. So went maybe 5-10% more amazing. But wow, that's like a dream meal to me right there. You got a little bean salad with soybeans, chickpeas, red kidney beans, some nori, some sushi rolls, nori, of course, just vegetables and, sesame seeds, ginger, carrots, cukes, rice, nori. Lots of pickles, which I love. I love pickles. There's some pickled celery. There's some raw cukes, some raw radicchio, and some raw radish, kind of angel hair cut. And then in the top right, there's some spinach. And then on the top, too, you got my little fresh ginger, fresh wasabi, and a little soy sauce. And then on the bottom, the umeboshi plum, which I always say, if you don't know umeboshi plums and umeboshi vinegar, get involved. Man, that will change your life. One of the real key things in Japanese food is that they use a lot of pickles. And one of them is umeboshi, which is a plum. And they use the vinegar, umeboshi vinegar, or ume vinegar. Excellent. And you can use it anywhere you use vinegar. Salad dressing, marinating, splash a little bit on some steamed greens or whatever. Again, this is just a hotel buffet breakfast. It looks better than you would get in a lot of Japanese restaurants. This is a typical lunch at the Blue Note. They would do some mushrooms for me, you see on the side, and every day a different miso soup. So it was lovely. This one had yuba, also known as tofu skin, scallions. Other days there was mushrooms. This is daigaku imo, which translates roughly as university potatoes. And these are just an amazing thing and a favorite of mine. And you get this as street food. Like what you're looking at there is like 75 cents or $1, roughly translate. So it's very inexpensive food, and they call it university food because poor students or students studying late or in a hurry get these from little food carts, food trucks, food stands. And all it is sweet potatoes. The Japanese have a range of incredible sweet potatoes. Very important part of their cuisine, again, is the sweet potatoes. For them, it's fish and the good fats, root vegetables like sweet potatoes, daikon, burdock, other types of potatoes and roots, ginger, and things like squash, and then rice as a grain source, and then the soybean with 4 or 5 different things that are key in the Japanese diet. The soybean itself, just the edamame, or kuramame, the sweet black soybeans as a snack. Natto, which is the fermented soybean, amazing. And then, of course, miso, tofu, shoyu, tamari, what we call soy sauce. So the soybean is super central. But those are kind of the 5 or 6 pillars. Fish and other seaweed. Potatoes are massively important to them, and everything else I mentioned. And then, as you study Japanese history, you start adding in a lot more of the land animals, a lot more pork. For a long part of the history, yes, 4-legged animals like a cat and a dog. That's more in Korean cuisine. And actually now in Japan, you can get dog and cat in Korean restaurants. It's kind of illegal, but if you were seeking it out, it's in some Korean areas. But much more pork coming in over the centuries, and much more beef in the last couple centuries, and of course Kobe beef becoming this thing. But those 4 or 5 pillars that I just described, sweet potatoes and root vegetables, are incredibly important. So this is daigaku imo, quick flash fried potatoes with a sweet syrup, like a maple syrup or a rice syrup, and black sesame seeds sprinkled on. Delicious. Kind of a crispy outside and a pillowy inside. A little sweet, a little savory. Wonderful. This is a typical bento box I got also at the Blue Note. Some spinach, this incredible Japanese spinach, more bean salad. Not a huge pasta fan, but this was tasty. The noodles were really good. This is like a pasta primavera kind of thing. A vegan pesto with some parsley and bits of tomato. Really good. Yet another miso soup. As I said, every day was different. This day they had carrots and daikon in there. Wow. Infinitely beautiful palette that miso can be. Typical pickle bowl for me in the breakfast buffet. Umeboshi plums, pickled cabbage. I can't remember that vegetable on the bottom. It's not daikon, but I can't remember. Some sort of radish, maybe. More root vegetables, again, and some squash. So this is kind of typical. Like they just have so many incredible vegetables. All you gotta do is look for it and ask how they're prepared, and if it's something where you're avoiding animal. And it's actually, easier than one would think. Onigiri, which is these, you can get these in 7-Eleven or any fast food. Just a little triangle pouch, a little pocket of rice with nori around it. And it's a quick little snack. Again, that's like $1 or something. I get the ones with natto or edamame or umeboshi plum inside. So it's rice, one of those 3 ingredients, and then nori. And it's just a quick little delicious snack. And if you have some mustard or soy sauce, you can kind of spice it up. Another breakfast place, this was incredibly fresh tofu that they made every day. Look at that, just soft, delicious tofu. So mixed vegetables. And this was the one time on the whole trip, I think, this restaurant had a very clearly marked, and they explained what the ingredients were. And it was called plant-based meat. And it was like a mushroom, soy kind of a thing. Because that was rare to see that in the hotel, especially where we were. We were way out in Iwate province, Marioko, I think is the city. And but yeah, maybe there's more Buddhists, more vegetarians there. By the way, Buddhism in Japan is an area where there's quite a few vegetarians. And I forget the phrase, but when you, again, with this thing of asking for the food you want, if you use the phrase for Buddhist food or temple food or monk food, you get vegetarian food. They know right away what you mean. So anyway, so there's some amazing little baby mushrooms that I would have. I'd buy those and take them to the hotel room and cook with those a lot. Um, 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 let's see. That looks like. Oh yeah, cool, cool. So this is. I think this is one more. The Blue Note, where we stayed for 12 nights. We had 2 shows a night, 2 different Pat solo and then Pat trio. I had these beautiful lunches. I gotta try to do tofu like this. They're doing it on a very hot oil in a pan, and then just quickly kind of flip it a couple times. But the tofu is so fresh there, so tender, so flavorful. I can't exaggerate enough. It really makes you, it changes the tofu game, and it reminds me that there's tofu and then there's tofu. So I've had really amazing tofu here in the States, but often it's like at a health food store, natural store, where it's in a bucket, and you kind of open it and get some tongs and take out the fresh tofu that's in the water. If you can find that and you never tried it, please do, because it's usually much better than. But there's some good tofus. Obviously, I love that you can get tofu in any supermarket now, anywhere in the USA, so it's really cool. This is another day in the same place. Notice the subtle difference, right? Like, it's even a couple different types of mushrooms. The tofu's done differently. And the miso soup this time is like mostly scallions and a little daikon. So I just love how the chef is really artistic and does a bit different every day. Yet another day in the same spot. I never got bored of this steaming hot, incredible miso soup that they would bring me. And they would always ask me when I was ready to eat so that it wouldn't sit around. And because I'd go in early and do a lot of prep on the guitars and the equipment. And then when I was ready for a lunch break, they would check in and it would be just amazing, piping hot soup, a nice salad, as you can see, and tofu and mushrooms and a lot of fresh fruit. So that's just a little glance at some of the foods. Some of those I showed last week, some I did not, but just to overlap. Cool. Do you ever do America on tour? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do I do America? Do you mean the song? All come to look for America. I think, I don't know if that's what you mean, Sharon, so expand on that. But if you mean the song, then that's funny. But when I was touring with Yes, they would do the song America, yeah. But I'm not sure what you, do I ever do America? Let me know what you mean by that. Do you mean American cuisine? I'm not sure. Anyway, love you. Umeboshi paste, yeah, you use that. Yeah, it's amazing and such a good ingredient to be used and stuff. Well, cool. I'm gonna jump off. I wanted to just get on and kind of touch base on Japan a little bit and see if the screen lets me hold this up without. No, it disappears. But you can kind of see it there. But this was a cool place. We went to this restaurant. Let's see. On the next one, whenever that is, I'm gonna. There's so much to talk about for Japan. I could really do like a show every week till I go back, but I won't. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the places we went to, and the quote unquote vegan movement is very very strong, actually. Let's see if I can get English on this, and I'll show you a couple of things. So this is one of the places we went. I don't know how to say the name, but really was amazing food. And So you find a lot of places like this. And, anywhere you go in the world, again, I've not been to the continent of Africa, but every other continent except Antarctica. And we live in a wonderful time where you just open your phone, punch in vegan. I mean, in Mexico City, I do that, and 30 places come up, food trucks, restaurants. You do that in Berlin, you do that in Buenos Aires, Argentina. These places where we are kind of brainwashed and gaslit that you have to eat meat, and because that's what they eat there. That's one of the enduring things wherever I go. There's always someone messaging me saying, "You won't be able to eat there," and I'm like, "I've been here a week, having incredible food. What are you talking about?" But you do that kind of thing, and look at a place like this. This is, it's busy. It's got all these different people there. I will say, in the all vegan places in Japan, it's half foreigners. I will say, absolutely. That's definitely, so it's culturally, it's still something where the visitors are kind of, but you're seeing the pictures right in front of you. I mean, in some of those shots, it's like most of the room is Japanese people. It just depends. But let's see if the menu is in English, see if this works. Well, even if it doesn't, let's just, we can see some cool pictures. And let's see. So what I love in the Japanese vegetarian places is it's traditional Japanese. So in other words, they're doing, well, this is like desserts right here, but when you find the different vegetables and mushrooms and what they do with cauliflower and with eggplants and sweet potatoes and things, it's quite amazing because they're going for a Japanese aesthetic in the good places. So there's some soba dishes and ramen dishes and things in a hot pot kind of thing like this. So really great. English. Oh, this is English. Okay, cool. Yeah. It probably detected that I was in the U.S. So there you have it. Just a couple of things from this restaurant. And this is just one restaurant we went to. They have a dinner, a Christmas course, and oh, look at that. See, that's my jam right there. A little rice, some sort of curry, some vegetables. That looks good. That's like a layered kind of a thing. This is my jam too. Like I want a savory, incredible soup. And this is pretty much what I had when we went to this place. I had a kind of like this one on top, just a real masaman curry, kind of a noodles and ramen, noodles and curry sort of a dish. Very spicy, very, very rich, very garlicky, gingery. That's kind of my jam. I could eat soup every single day, and I often do. Let's see. And then one more I'll share is a place called Mushroom Tokyo, which wow, that was incredible. We went to lunch there just a couple days before we split, so it was very cool. And one of my colleagues found this place and said, "Hey, let's make a reservation." And I didn't know, but they were doing again. It's an all mushroom place, but on this we were lucky because January, February. Look at this, they're doing an all vegan course. So this was amazing. It was like a 5 or 6 course. Oh, here we go. Here's the courses. Amazing. Everything had mushrooms. There was pickled mushrooms, a mushroom tapenade, a pickled tapenade. There was a giant mushroom they cooked, mushroom za'atar, vegan cheese with mushroom potage, a soup. Oh, good. Here's some pictures. So it was kind of that gourmet thing where it's just a little bit of food on a plate. But this was the appetizers. They brought you like 4 different appetizers. Very beautiful, beautiful presentation. Everything vegan. So any sauces or anything that looks like milk is soy milk or coconut milk. And I thought what was really great was, again, kind of going with old traditional Japanese ideas, just leaving out the animal. And it's about getting that, wrapping your mind around that, which, obviously many of you can. Spring roll. The Dyson chicken, I'm not sure if that's animal chicken or some kind of wheat gluten thing. I think this is still the all vegan menu. So yeah, it's some kind of wheat gluten thing. Inanewa udon. Oh man, that's just some exotic noodles. And then some desserts. And so this one's the vegan course one, yeah. So that was, I'm not sure now. Was that before or after? Anyway, you get the picture. If anything, there was the one dish with chicken, but it might have been some sort of mushroom seitan vegan version of chicken. Anyway, you get the picture. Just a kind of quick look at some of the things we did, some of the places we went to, but more importantly, just that there's so many options. If you really look. So, all right. Thank you so much for sticking around. Thanks for stopping by. Hello, anyone on YouTube? Cannabis in Japan, says Jutkabi1197. I'm not sure who that is. But cannabis in Japan. I don't smoke. I quit smoking about 12 years ago now. But I'm a big supporter of legality and hemp as a food and good medicine and edibles and stuff like that. Even edibles, too strong for me. I'll have them once in a while, but holy shit, when you don't smoke, that stuff. But Japan, you do not want to be caught with any of that, man. They're still pretty strict, which is a bummer, because any country where it's strict is wasting their time, wasting their resources, locking up potheads. But I heard some stories, and people do it, people get away with it, but it's a real no. You really want to, be super careful. I don't think they're as bad as Singapore or some of those places where it's the death penalty, but they're pretty strict. Anyway, thanks for being here. Let me put a link up to, patmetheny.com. You know how to find that. And I'm opening for Tony Levin and Stickman on Wednesday. So if you happen to be in Asheville, which someone messaged me, one of my friends from here, but who knows about it already? But I will. I'll just put some links on the general thread later on. But thanks for being here. Thanks for coming through, and we'll see you maybe next week, maybe in a couple weeks, because I'll be just starting a tour next week. So